plays. They haven't really had any bad games this season, in my opinion. They've all been quite good. So I'm pumped to see if they can pull down the entire thing. Like you said, an opportunity to have a changing of the guard.
Here we go. Game number 1, best of 7 to take home the regional championship for Season 9. And we are going to be starting off with Sypical and the rest of Space Station Gaming's offense, trying to see what they can accomplish. And throughout this entire season, James, we've sort of seen Space Station become a little bit more of a complete article. Last season, we could always just point, okay, mechanically, they're very solid. This season, they've added more to it, and never more shown than the previous series against Ghost Gaming, where they were almost more patient in a way.
And playing with such confidence as well, and I think a lot of that has been due to how well AXB has been playing. Arsenal hasn't really had to use demos as much. He's just using his speed. He's so fast. All of these Space Station players so quick to the ball. And it has been a treat watching them play. Now we see some aggression coming out from Rizzo. And Rizzo's one of those players as well who loves going for those demos.
Sypical will win the challenge. First minute completed now. Sypical now have a chance to create. Pops the ball up. Genep's going to need to do more than that just to beat him. But AXB holding the midfield line. There's a good little win and once again. And Space Station Gaming, they've controlled the majority of the territory so far. Those tend to be a good showing as to what you're going to expect in the rest of the game. Sypical with the set. JNAP just pops it straight out, only as far as Arsenal. For the double tap, he's left himself a lot of work to do. Wasn't quite able to do it, but here's where Space Station can be so strong. Give themselves plenty of time, and you can see AXB's now all the way back. No real danger here now on the counter-attack as G2 looks to try and set up. The midfield, Sypical gets a demo, can't quite get himself the ball, as Arsenal will drop it straight down to JNAPS. JNAPS looking for the pass. Rizzo goes for net. And JNAPS as well available for the 1-2 passing play. That's going to go straight down. Rizzo now one-on-one against Arsenal. Comes out pretty much equal on the 50. That's a good enough position for G2 to work with. So far, neither team with a clear-cut opportunity on net.
It has been a battle for the boost. Rizzo, we saw in that play, he might have been going for a shot, but I think he might have also been going for the backward pass, just didn't get enough height on his flick. And we're seeing a battle in the midfield. JNAPS didn't get that boost. That's going to allow Arsenal to get that boost, so we'll see if Space Station can get on the attack.
It's going to be off the crossbar. Probably the best opportunity we've seen so far, and it came from a cross-map shot. As Rizzo is going to leave this one. Chicago as well on his way back. 0 boost on him. Means it's going to be up to his teammates to really take control of this rotation, and take control they do. JNAT blasts the ball down to the other side of the field. This first goal becoming more and more elusive for both teams. And if we do get further into the game, it becomes more and more important. Drop down. Arsenal off the backboard, can't get his second touch. Looks for the setup to AXB! And Space Station will open up the scoring.
And a lovely play. Sypical, that little pass into the middle. AXB had to get the ball around JNAPS, and he places it far post. Everything coming together for Space Station.
And that's just how annoying it can be to take on Space Station. You think you've got them locked down in your own corner. You think they're on the far right-hand side, so that means you can just leave, your left side completely open. No, you can't. They will attack everywhere in an attempt to break you down. Here's JNAPS trying to find a way to get his team back into this game. We've got a minute and a half to do so. Got back down again. Rizzo for the backboard. Chicago's not a great spot to play this. The right thing, takes his time rather than just lashing away at the ball. Here's JNAPS to tie us up. Bounces out to Chicago. 1 each.
Well done from Chicago to get that cleanup. He gets the pass out to JNAPS, and it caused everyone to jump for that. Bouncing off the post. Chicago, even though he had nothing in the tank, was ready to clean that play up, and we're all tied.
The lead did not last long enough for Space Station, but both teams showing off what they can do. And I've really got to just give so much credit to Chicago on not rushing the play. That takes the ball down, gives himself plenty of time. And he bounced all the way down to the other side of the field. Sypical on the chase. I mean, he got bumped on his way through. So it was always going to be a little bit slower for him to try and set up. And we're now seeing both teams blast the ball to each other. We saw how effective that was for Space Station in the previous game. G2 doing a good job of showing that they can do roughly the same thing as well. as we are going to see ourselves a pause. 50 seconds left on the clock at the moment. We'll be getting into that game again very shortly. But James, from what we're seeing so far, it's sort of the typical introduction to these sort of, big games where no matter what you've done throughout the season, it starts to get a little bit more tense for you once you hit grand finals time.
It's certainly, this does have a different feel about it. This regional championship, this is it. This is the pinnacle of the RLCS season. So there's much more on the line now, not only in prize pool, but also just in the bragging rights, being able to be called the best in North America. We're not going to be able to crown a best in the world at the moment, but still, this is it. This is what these teams are playing for. So this is going to be the most pressure that any of these teams have faced in quite some time.
Absolutely. So we did have a player disconnect. We'll be getting that back and sorted out very shortly. But James, I really want to talk to you right now about what has made this turnaround possible for G2, because we saw how last season wasn't good enough at all, but it's almost been swept under the rug entirely. Like, if you just took away, someone say, didn't see those matches, you would almost assume, okay, how did they do last season? Take a guess. They were probably like third at the very least. G2 really have just sort of put last season behind them incredibly well.
Yeah, to me, what the difference has been is JNaps. JNaps, I think, has been playing better than he's played in a very long time. I think when G2 was struggling, a lot of it was because JNaps was struggling as well. You think back to the times of the knapsack where he would do so much. He was undisputed top player in North America, and since then he fell off. But now he's really starting to come back, and I think a lot of it's just due to the amount of time he's been putting in the game, and also G2. If you remember, they got that gaming house together as well. So they were playing together all in the same house, building that personal chemistry, but also getting really quality practice. So I think it was G2 putting their nose to the grindstone and really putting in the time, the effort, everything into getting back to where they were. And I think it's paid off.
So when we do get back into this game, it's going to be 54 seconds left on the clock. Really, I think you do make a great point there, James. And I really want to revisit that in just a second as well. But we have got ourselves back into the game. Thankfully, not a long pause this time around. Tied up at 1 goal each. We look to see where the rest of this game does take us. This is game number 1 of a best of 7 for your regional championship. Typical to the corner. Can he get an extra touch? You can see AXB already waiting, but well position from him means he can continue to put the pressure on whilst his team sorts themselves out. Now Rizzo drops it down to Chicago. Oh, it's going to be a difficult play to take a hold of. Those passes have to be on point because Chicago has no real room to run onto the ball. Backboard again, Typical to his own corner. We just saw the boost stolen. And there's a demo as well. This is dire straits right now. And JNaps didn't choose to put the ball on net. Spacestation Gaming survive a quick scare. We head into the last 10 seconds. Are we going into overtime as JNaps will take control? As G2 looking for their final attempt on net. Typical, making sure that they're not going to be allowed possession of this ball for that time. And we are going to head into overtime for our first game.
And G2's been doing a great job of keeping possession, battling back for that boost, keeping Spacestation in their own net.
The backboard, Chicago. We'll try and drop it down to Rizzo, but didn't quite have the accuracy to do so. For a setup. XB was trying to find some boost as well, but JNaps was quick enough to get to it. It means that transitions like this can now happen for G2. XB didn't pick up his own boost either. He's been eliminated, and Chicago will finish off game 1. He's got himself a brace.
And he got caught out, and then he decided to let that bounce off the corner. We see 2 demos come out. Typical was racing back, but there was no hope. AXB had to get that ball before it bounced off the corner. He started going for it, but realized he was too slow, too late, and that demo sealed it. G2 getting game 1.
And look at how small the mistake was from AXB, and how quickly it was blown open to become a massive one in a completely open net for G2. Phenomenal, taking advantage of the situation. They've got themselves game 1. And this is the perfect start for them, and what was a very nervy start to game number 1 as well. But James, you did mention about, JNaps. He used to be called the knapsack because he was so good at carrying his teams. But it almost seems like that's a long time ago in a way, because that was back when he was in contention to be the best player in the world. But now he's looking like he's starting to work his way back into those conversations again. And really, that's what G2 needs.
You're exactly right. I think they needed that spark. They got a bit of a spark. If you remember when they brought in Chicago, he had instant results really for G2. But then they started to waver, especially last season with the new demo meta that we saw come out. We saw demos play a very prevalent role even in this game, except G2 were the ones who were putting in the pain, especially Rizzo looking for those demos. You can never be too safe or on the field with him prowling around. But G2, this team, Shogun, they've completely turned it around. They really have, because JNAPS is playing better. You go back and look at last season, G2's offense, they would do well keeping possession, but the finishing power was not there. The finishing ability was not there. There was all this buildup, but they just could not get the goals. But this season, it has been different, especially with JNAPS hitting some massive overtime shots. Rizzo's playing better than he's ever played before. Really, the only person who I haven't thought has been playing stellar has been Chicago. He's had a lot of issues with shooting, hitting nets that usually he was hitting in previous seasons, but he's still playing quite good, just not up to what I think his potential is. So this G2 team is quite scary now that JNAPS is back in action.
Now, forgive me if I'm wrong on this one. This is me trying to go way off my memory from almost 2 months ago, and we've already seen that I can barely figure out what happened 2 days ago. Was there not a shout from somebody on the early predictions that Rizzo would be MVP, or am I getting that one completely mixed up?
No, you're 100% right. Yes.
So I can't tell what the average is between 3 and 7, but I can figure this one out. Fantastic. Good job, me.
Well done, Shogun. Yes, that was actually Turtle that made that prediction. It was too soon, but I think he did a pretty good job guessing.
I mean, there was about a 3-week period there where Rizzo really looked like he could be in contention for it. So he's stepped up massively, and at times he's sort of pigeonholed into this third man role where it's obviously okay, he's going to stay back. Chicago and JNAPS are going to move forward. But that's changed, especially over the last 3 seasons, where it is just a 3-man offense. The moment they get an opportunity, they are launching the house at you, and you've got to be ready to try and defend that. And really, Spacestation can sometimes be considered the same way. Yet I feel like the situation has to be even more this is definitely a goal for them, but still very similar on offensive philosophy.
You're right, and you can draw some parallels with Arsenal and Rizzo. They both like being upfield. They both like going for the demos. They like helping their team succeed. You've got Sipical, who has been a shooter for Spacestation in the past, but really AXB has been doing quite well in the shooting department also. So it's a little similar to JNAPS in Chicago, who also have that dynamic scoring ability. So this is a good matchup. It was a close series before, and I expect a close series again.
And I'm hoping, I'm scared to say it, because sometimes when you say it, it doesn't happen, but there is the typical G2 thing where they get faster and faster throughout a series. This one was a little bit of a slow start, slow by pro standards, but we saw it against Ghost Gaming a couple of weeks ago where that was a bit of a slow start as well, and it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker as these teams start to figure out, okay, here's the defensive holes, we're going to try and attack that. So I'll be very much looking forward to seeing how this sort of style evolves, as we have got ourselves into game number 2. G2 Esports currently sat at 1-0. But regional championships currently on the line. Spacestation Gaming looking to forcibly take the mantle, not just as the future of North American Rocket League, but as the present of North American Rocket League. They would take it with a 10-1 record throughout the season, which is just an absolute statement to the world. JNAPS trying to take control. It's a pop-up. Sipical's going to have to try and get a second touch, or at least ward away Rizzo, who was going around like a shark waiting for his bait. Spacestation looking to control and challenge everything in the midfield, but so far G2 Esports winning the vast majority of them. XB can't win the challenge. This is a consistent thing so far. G2 winning all of them in our opening minute. Sipical plays out to Arsenal, and another win. Chicago can get the double here, and he's going to lay it across the far side. And that's the sort of thing where, depending on how G2 are feeling offensively, you've got to be worried about our second player being there, because it's not rare that we would see a Rizzo up there to take the shots.
You're absolutely right. Rizzo has been hitting his shots as well. Some big goals against NRG to get G2 in this position. But now AXB off the backboard and then follow-up denied from Chicago. Space Station, they're getting a few shots of their own.
They'll be very worried considering the quality of shooting that we have seen from most of the players today. Arsenal. Set up. It's going to go straight across the midfield. JNAPS even more happy now that he did avoid the earlier demo. Chicago now tries to put it over to JNAPS. That's far too heavy. He did make contact with Space Station player on the way through, and it does mean that we go to the other side of the field. XB wins the challenge, pops over the top of Arsenal, and Sipical tries to buy his team a little bit of time. He's done exactly that with XB now back into position. This is where you'd expect to see XB shine, but he's not made good contact at all. G2 can look to put on some pressure right here, right now. And it's going to be Rizzo with the mechanical plays. He couldn't quite get the resets.
He's attempting mechanical play for sure. AXB, however, has missed a few plays on defense even before in this game. He went for that ball up near the ceiling and he ended up missing it and having to use up a lot of boost to get back down to the ground. So it seems like AXB experiencing some issues. Wonder if he'll get that straightened out, as this is it. All of this season coming down to this single series.
Chicago. Control. Hasn't really got any options available and almost laid it straight up to AXB. A couple of opportunities now where just midfield shots have almost led to goals for Space Station. Just got to tighten up the shooting now. Make sure those do go onto target. Here is Arsenal. Drop straight down to Rizzo once again. JNAPS for Chicago. Going to go up the wall. The boost as well. It's going to probably be very difficult to take this one off him, but instead try to find the pass to Rizzo. Both teams not looking overly sharp so far in game number 2. We are going to go off the backboard one more time. Chicago misses. Instead probably called off by Rizzo. Just waiting to see which team really clicks first. JNAPS for Rizzo one more time. Each of these just really to an awaiting team. Every team, or both teams, really playing with 2 players behind the ball, 1 player on. Not really the most aggressive setup, as that's going to go across the goal line. XB takes a crucial touch, but it was a risky one as well. And they'd be happy to see that he got the save.
That was a close call for Space Station. And Arsenal now looking for some demos, getting 2 demos, but that one won't be too devastating on Rizzo, as he will now respawn back with a third of his tank.
Starting to look more and more like it could be a 1-goal game. Typical. Gets the play going quickly, but a double demo means G2 can press forward. Another bump means Arsenal has to play his way in. Typical, though, immediately in counter-attack. Both teams trying to find the quick transitions, but sometimes they're hitting, most of the times that they're not. JNAPS with the flip reset, and it's gonna be good enough! G2 have the lead!
The knapsack is back. Chicago Rizzo hop in. With plays like this, you can tell there's a lot of space. What a shot!
Well, we've seen these 2 teams trading possession back and forth. It was only a matter of time before one of them nailed the play. And JNAPS did exactly that. But the last time we got into this position, there was an answer almost immediately. Can Space Station do it yet again? They've got a passing option from Sipical. Diving, though, did make this pass a little bit more difficult, and XB's now got to try and follow. Instead, it is just gifted possession over to G2, and there's a G2 that will waste as much time as they can. Another huge bump, or another block from Rizzo, I should say. Sipical blasts the ball. He's going to have to try and chase this. Is this wasted possession? Does look like it could be, but here's Arsenal. Immediately sees his shot smothered by JNAPS. G2 on the verge of a 2-0 lead in this series. They just need to see the ball hit the floor, and it's going to do exactly that. No, it will not. Managed to keep it alive, but there's so much work to do for Space Station. They cannot do it. G2 head 2-0 up in the regional finals.
And the only goal that we saw was dazzling, Shogun. The flip reset right into an air dribble for JNAPS. That was disgusting, and that was the difference maker.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, both teams have been trying for the individual plays with, limited success so far. It's been an interesting affair on that front. I do want to take a look right now towards AXB, because We saw earlier on there was a couple of attempts on the transition, especially with the air dribble transitions, that he doesn't look overly comfortable with. And in a game like this, where transitions have become so important, you need things like that to be going well. You need him to be forcing out at least one challenge and not just dropping the ball in the midfield for G2 to pick back up.
Yeah, it's going to have to be sustained pressure. You're going to have to do a lot to beat this G2 team that you can tell is feeling it. They have the hot hand right now. The demos, especially from G2, have really helped them. It got them the win in game number 1. This game, they've been using it again to force Spacestation back. Spacestation is scrambling for answers right now.
So, game 3 on the way, and this is pretty much as must-win as they come for Spacestation. We very rarely see the reverse sweep, especially in a game, well, a 7-game series. So, for this one, they've got to start trying to see what can stick at this point. You've had a bit of time to sort of try out, see where you expect the mistakes to be coming from G2. Now you've got to try and use that knowledge and make something of it. Here is game number 3. Spacestation Gaming, it's going to be looking to see a quicker start, and, well,
oh, no.
They've certainly been had a helping hand on that one.
Oh, no. That was disastrous. JNavs, he hit the flip reset into the air dribble, and he also hit the own goal.
Well, that's not how you want to do it if you're G2, but the Spacestation, a goal's a goal. Right now, they're, well, staying pretty in this game. 1-0 up, but they needed to start fast, and they certainly have managed that, even if they did get a little bit of help on the way.
You know, JNavs is never going to live that one down, Shogun. That clip's going to live on for quite some time.
There's a turbo pulsar out there somewhere that's hoping that the crown of own goaler has been handed to somebody else. It won't be, but he can hope. Lovely challenge again. Spacestation doing a much better job so far this game, holding to the midfield. It's going to be typical. Once again, those long clears. That's a good little trap against the ceiling, though. And G2, keep the pressure going. XP does miss. And that would have been a calamitous goal to let in. Thankfully, he got a teammate there to help him out. This has been interesting so far in game number 3.
It really has been, and AXB has missed a few of these opportunities. We see Chicago trying to go for the dunk over AXB, but perhaps the nerves getting to him now as Sipical is denied by JNavs. I've seen a few critical misses from AXB in some tough moments.
PlayStation, though, still doing a better challenge job so far this game. Typical for the backboard. Arsenal would love to try and correct themselves. Does still manage to get a block. But we have got AXB all the way towards the back. He seems to be almost dedicated third man so far in this series. Rizzo tries to set something up, but only as far as Sipical. 2 minutes gone now in game number 3. And in game 3, that Spacestation more or less have to win. And that's another mistake. Spacestation, we're going to get punished for this eventually. And guess what? They have been.
And Sipical, he was up there on the backboard, didn't get the read, and just had to watch Rizzo. Rizzo, an easy goal for him.
Well, they got handed a gift, and they've given one right back. So, you know, sharing is caring. And both teams have been sharing the goals so far this game.
Yeah, I don't know if JNavs was quite the nice gift. I feel like G2 had to work a little bit, and JNavs doesn't stop working, making amends for that own goal with this one.
Great setup from him. AXB takes too long to get to the challenge. And Gems will turn that straight in for a 2-1 lead. This has been, well, it's been so far. 2-1 to G2 Esports.
You could tell that AXB thought he had some time. He thought JNavs was out of the play. He thought JNavs had no boost, and he was right. JNavs did have no boost, but it was a perfect flip, and he was able to pick up a boost pad, and that was enough for JNavs to deal some damage. Now a double tap missed, and JNavs will clean it up. And G2 bounced right back after that calamitous start.
Everybody currently back right now for Spacestation, but none of them can do a thing! Rizzo's got his second, and Spacestation Gaming look like they don't know how to deal with this.
And a gorgeous play from Rizzo. If you watch from his perspective, he air rolled at the last second to make it where he could barely get his nose on the ball, and it poked it by the defender who was not expecting Rizzo to get that touch. Incredible control from Rizzo on that play.
Typical to the corner. He's got a setup for AXB. AXB's going to need to try and bring in Arsenal, however. Arsenal is now starting to rotate in. It'll be him against the world, and the world is going to win this time around. Rizzo with a challenge. Chicago. Rizzo on the wall. No, Rizzo's going to be on his way back this time. G2 got 2 goals to the lead. Don't need to force the pressure right now. It's all up to Space Station Gaming to head towards them. Sipical wants to try and get the set. XB needs to find something here for him and the rest of his team. A minute and a half left on the clock. Going to drop down dangerously for G2. It's a decent little setup, but G2 will be able to transition out their own side of the field. Maybe set up a shot on goal. As Arsenal's forced to just parry that one to the far side. XB. Oh, huge stop from JNaps. Space Station Gaming struggling to get anything to go for themselves. But Arsenal does win the speed race. Gotta keep this pressure on that they cannot afford.
That was a big save as well because it was a double commit. And have that save gone poorly and the ball bounced out to a vulnerable spot. And again, JNaps getting in the way. It's like he has a sixth sense of where that ball's going to end up.
So, has this been a good game or a bad game for JNaps? I'm really struggling to tell.
I think it's been a little bit of both.
Yeah, he's been both teams' best player so far. A goal over to the wall again. 30 seconds on the clock for Space Station Gaming. Stare down 4 match points, 4 championship points for G2 Esports. It's going to be played over to Chicago. Does get a good enough touch on the challenge. More boost stolen. More hope drained down for Space Station. Has their season come too far for them? Have they peaked too early? They're going to have to do so much work to get through this series. They've now got to stare down 4 championship points for G2 Esports, who look simply unstoppable right now.
They certainly do. And, you know, I dispute a little bit of your claim, Shogun. JNaps, the best player on both teams? No, maybe the best on Space Station, but on G2, I think Rizzo played quite well this game, getting 2 out of the 3 goals. JNaps did make some big saves, however, but G2, they're looking unstoppable right now. JNaps and Rizzo doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Chicago really hasn't even had to do that much work, and Space Station looked flat.
I mean, this is experience. At the end of the day, it's the one word that can be described what we're seeing on our screens. Heck, for those of you earlier on that were watching the European Invitational that saw Singularity against Sandrock, you might be seeing this very much the same way, where the team that had more experience was able to step up more when the pressure was on. There's not going to be any more pressure than right now for both these teams this season. And right now, it seems like G2 are the team that's stepping up. And unfortunately, Space Station Gaming don't look like they've shown up so far.
They really don't. And you could tell on defense with some of these plays. We even saw Sipical miss that read on the backboard. A few missed touches from AXB, missed hits from AXB. This is not the Space Station that we've seen previously. This is not the Space Station that finished at the top of the ladder or the Space Station that beat G2 in league play 3-1. Space Station, you can tell that pressure is getting to them, Shogun. But G2, they are thriving on it. The only mistake really that we've seen was that own goal from JNaps right away, but he quickly made amends for that.
So, 4 games in a row needed for Space Station Gaming. It's going to go straight on the other side of the field. Wow. Is that in?
Wow.
G2 are not going to score many easier than that.
JNaps popped that one off his own crossbar as well. He almost scored on them again, and then he scores on a full field shot. This is disastrous for Space Station. G2, what a story it would be. Last season, they finished dead last in league play. Had to go to the promotion tournament, and now they are less than 5 minutes away from being crowned North American champions.
And there were people in the offseason begging this roster to make moves, begging them to change something up, and instead, they stuck with the formula that took them to a World Championship Finals. And this is now the formula that could very well be taking them to a regional championship. Gonna go off the backboard for JNAPS. No, Arsenal was already there in time. For Spacestation, that opening goal is such a punch to the gut because we've seen so many times, you know, you have that chat in between games. You just say, okay, we're going to try and create something special here. You go in with at least some renewed hope, and you immediately get punched in the mouth with JNAPS' goal.
And that is got to be a tough thing to recover from. But also I want to point out that they've also not been really getting the greatest demos. We've seen some demos on Rizzo, but it's been at times where it's been beneficial for Rizzo to get demoed. He's out of boost, he's deep in enemy territory. A bump would work much better, but he gets demoed and respawns back on defense with plenty of boost in the tank. This Space Station team, it seems like they're panicking. They're not playing like we've seen them play, and you can tell that the pressure and the stress is really getting to them.
2 players committed, but only 1 Rizzo required to stop the play. He's going to get himself some boost as well as he locks down Space Station in their own final third. Double commit means XP needs to get here on time. JNAPS trying to chase him down. Popped into the middle. Chicago wins the challenge. Station Gaming just cannot escape this little hole that they've been stuck in. JNAPS, the corner, with Chicago is staying. I want to see if he can catch out the defense. It's straight down the middle. G2 just toying around right now, seeing how flashy they can make the goal. They do need one more to feel pretty comfortable at this one. XP, once again, the last man back. He's going to have to do a lot of work, and realistically, that's just another invite for G2 to push themselves forward. Off the backboard again. They need to make contact. They do exactly that. Chicago has to play into his own corner. And the rest of G2 try and reset themselves. But currently 1-0. 2.5 minutes left in this game. Space Station Gaming got it all to do. They've only just finally found the blue side of the field.
Rizzo did well to get by 2 players there. Timing his demo. Now the demo on the way back. JNAPS has to turn it. Rizzo's there, puts it in. Rizzo is playing lights out Rocket League.
Is that enough to secure the regional championships? Rizzo has been outstanding in this series. JNAPS has more than done his part. And Space Station Gaming have just been onlookers. That is an interesting kickoff if I've ever seen one. Is that going to be enough to get them forward? Arsenal for the double tap. And he's blocked again. Every time we see Space Station get anything go their way, there's a blue wall immediately stopping them.
G2 has been making stop after stop on the few opportunities Space Station is given. And Rizzo, he has been demolishing Space Station off the pitch. Chicago lays it straight off to Rizzo. He takes his time. So dangerous from these corners, even when he's low on boost. Minute and a half. Space Station require 2 goals, and that's just to send us into overtime. They've then got to win 3 games on top of that. It's an uphill battle if you've ever seen one. JNAPS. As far as Arsenal. Good challenge as well. Rizzo's on the backboard. Typical tried to challenge him out or fake him out. And instead, G2 quickly transitions to the other side of the field. A 3rd goal would kill it. JNAPS tries to find it. 2 players committed. That's Rizzo straight back down. And that is just cheeky. Pass straight back to Chicago. More time wasted. And more importantly, possession retained for G2. And you can tell that Rizzo was looking for that pass to JNAPS. Chicago's going to put this one off the crossbar. Rebound chance. AXB gets bumped by his own teammate. Arsenal hits him out of the way, and that has to be absolutely devastating. And for Space Station Gaming, they did not want it to be like this. G2 have been rampant in this series, but if we're being fair overall, Space Station have been Space Station in name alone so far. This is not what we have come to expect from them. And the confidence from G2, it has propelled them to greatness in this series. They are styling on Space Station. All of them playing exceptionally well when it matters most. The season coming to an end, and G2 and Rizzo clearing the path.
As we do wind our last few seconds down, it's the ultimate redemption story for G2 Esports. They were in the promotion tournament. They've now won the playoffs. Your regional champions, G2 Esports.
And Rizzo has an MVP caliber game. And you know, Rizzo, maybe he didn't get the league play MVP, Shogun, but in this regional championship, I thought he played inspired Rocket League. He was all over the place, whether it was dribbling out on the defensive end, making defensive stops, setting up his teammates, scoring the goals, paving the way with demos. Rizzo played incredible. And G2 as a whole, it was just a great thing to witness. Like you said, G2 from last to number one. You don't see it really ever in Rocket League. We saw it for the first time.
And they can now chalk up last season as merely a few weeks of bad form. You don't get much better than this. They are going to take it all home. And then when we head into the spring series next month, they will be the team to beat. They'll be what everyone's looking towards, as they have taken their first regional championship back since Season 5 and have put behind the demons of their previous regional championship failure and losing to Dreno Vitality a few seasons ago. They are now back on top, and they'll be oh so pleased for it. You do mention Rizzo and how he had just a phenomenal performance towards the last two games, but really, JNap's Game 2 performance, I think, just started to seal it.
Yeah, that play from JNaps was such an impact play. You're right, Shogun. All of them were playing quite well. JNap's that play where he gets the flip reset into the air dribble in overtime. That is something that can really just propel a team to victory, not only in the game, but in the series. And when G2 is making plays like that, it does so much for the confidence. It does so much for the morale. And G2, while they were gaining confidence, you could tell that Spacestation was crumbling. A few plays that were just shocking, like the Arsenal bump at the end on AXB. We saw some missed hits on the backboard. Nobody was perfect on Spacestation today. Everybody had their fair share of mistakes. And they didn't get the title, but still second place is quite good. They're going to be happy, I think, with at least the overall results. The series was something that they're going to look back on with regret. But overall, coming in second place in North America in this regional championship is still something to be proud of.
Well, G2 dominate in our regional finals. And to break down today's action, it's going to be Leaf and Gibbs.